Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mighty Habits.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Steven.
Hi.
I'm so glad you could join us for another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, here at Mighty Habits, we're all about exploring those little changes that can have a big impact on your life.
Right.
But sometimes the biggest impact comes from understanding the people around us better.
I think so.
So today, we're going to be diving into how to do just that
Okay.
with the help of our expert, Mary.
Hey, Steven, it's great to be back, and I
Yeah.
think you're right. Understanding people is kind of like a superpower we
Right.
can all work on, and I think that's what makes this topic so fascinating to me.
Totally agree. And we're going to be looking at some ideas from David Brooks
Okay.
in his book, How to Know a Person.
Mm.
Now, I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but sometimes I feel like I'm just walking around with all these assumptions about people.
Right.
These little stories I've made up in my head about who they are.
I think we all do that.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one, right?
Yep.
Have you ever been totally surprised by someone
Oh, yeah.
you thought you knew really well?
Absolutely. I think we all kind of do that thing where we put people in boxes,
Huh?
based on very limited information.
Yeah.
And then we're surprised when they don't fit neatly inside.
Right?
It's like we forget that everyone has these hidden depths,
Yeah.
layers of experience and emotion that shape who they are.
It's like those optical illusions
Yeah.
where you think you see one thing
Right.
and then suddenly, bam, it's
Well,
something completely different.
Yeah.
And Brooks really gets into this,
Uh,
this idea that getting to know someone
yeah.
is an art form.
It is.
It takes effort and intention
Right.
and a willingness to let go of our assumptions.
Yeah. It's not something that just happens passively.
Right.
Brooks suggests that we need to approach relationships with a sense of curiosity,
Huh.
almost like we're explorers,
I like that.
setting out to map uncharted territory.
That's a great analogy. Thanks. And one of the things Brooks talks about is the importance of vulnerability.
Okay.
It's almost like saying, hey, this is the real me,
Yeah.
warts and all,
Mhm.
and inviting the other person to do the same.
Right.
Now, I know vulnerability can be scary for some people,
Oh, for sure.
but Brooks argues that it's the key to forming genuine connections.
I think what's interesting about that is that vulnerability isn't just about sharing our deepest secrets or anything like that.
Right.
It can also be about just admitting when we don't know something
Oh, yeah.
or asking for help when we need it.
Yeah.
It's about allowing ourselves to be seen as imperfect,
Uh-huh.
which kind of paradoxically can make us more relatable and trustworthy.
So it's not about putting on a perfect front,
Right.
but being authentic,
Yeah.
even with our flaws.
Uh-huh.
I guess that makes sense. When someone's willing to be vulnerable with us,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of safety and trust.
Right.
It's like, okay, they're being real with me,
Yeah.
so I can be real with them too.
Absolutely. Vulnerability can actually be contagious
Okay.
in a positive way. When we see someone else being open and honest,
Yeah.
it kind of gives us permission to do the same. It's
Right.
like they're saying it's okay to be yourself here.
Yeah. And you know what? It makes me think about another element of knowing someone,
Okay.
which is supporting them when they're going through a tough time.
For sure.
Life throws everyone curveballs.
Yeah.
And being there for someone during those moments
Uh-huh.
can really solidify a connection.
Right.
How does Brooks approach this idea of support?
That's a great question. Stephen Brooks emphasizes that supporting someone isn't about trying to fix their problems
Right.
or offer easy solutions.
Yeah.
It's about being a compassionate presence in their lives,
Okay.
a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on.
Mm.
Sometimes the most helpful thing we can do
Yeah.
is just validate their feelings and let them know they're not alone.
So it's not always about coming up with a plan of action. It's about acknowledging the person's pain
Yeah.
and offering them our empathy.
Mm.
You know, we're so conditioned to try to solve problems.
We are.
But sometimes just being there is enough.
Yeah, and Brooks points out that sometimes our
Yeah.
attempts to fix things can actually make the person feel worse.
Oh, I see.
Like we're dismissing their feelings or
Mhm.
telling them they shouldn't feel the way they do.
So it's about listening without judgment
Yeah.
and maybe offering a hug or a kind word
Right.
instead of a to-do list.
Exactly. Sometimes the most powerful form of support is simply being present
Yeah.
and letting the person know they're loved and valued.
I can see how that approach would create a much deeper connection
Mm-hmm.
than just trying to fix everything.
Right.
It's about recognizing the person's humanity
Yeah.
and respecting their emotional experience.
It is. And this kind of ties into another point Brooks makes,
Okay.
which is the importance of meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
We've all had those surface level chats
Right.
about the weather
Right.
or the latest news.
Right.
But what really makes a conversation meaningful and memorable.
Well, I think we've all experienced those conversations where you walk away feeling like you've really connected with someone
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've gotten a glimpse into their soul
Uh-huh.
and they've gotten a glimpse into yours.
Exactly. And I think one of the keys to having those kinds of conversations
Yeah.
is being fully present in the moment.
Right.
It's about putting away our phones,
Yeah.
silencing our inner chatter,
Uh-huh.
and really focusing on the person in front of us.
It's about active listening, right? Not just waiting for our turn to speak,
Right.
but truly absorbing what the other person is saying,
Mhm.
both their words and their nonverbal cues.
Absolutely. And Brooks talks about the importance of asking thoughtful questions,
Good.
questions that go beyond the superficial
Mhm.
and invite the other person to share more of themselves.
Right.
He believes that asking the right questions
Yeah.
can unlock a treasure trove of insight. Okay.
And lead to a deeper understanding of who someone really is.
It's like we're turning the conversation into a gentle excavation,
Oh, that's nice.
carefully uncovering the layers of someone's personality and experiences.
It's a beautiful way to put it, Stephen.
Yeah.
And I think it highlights the importance of being patient and curious
Right.
in our interactions with others.
Mm.
It's about treating every conversation as an opportunity to learn and grow,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and for the person we're engaging with.
So it's not just about gathering information.
Right.
It's about connecting on a human level. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that each person we encounter has a unique story to tell.
Uh-huh.
And that story is worth listening to.
Right. And when we approach conversations with that kind of openness and curiosity,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to the possibility of forming truly meaningful connections.
It's like we're saying, I see you, I hear you,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in learning more about who you are.
Right.
And that kind of validation can be incredibly powerful. It can. And I think it's something we all crave,
Yeah.
whether we realize it or not. We all want to feel seen and understood.
Right.
And those meaningful conversations can provide that sense of connection and belonging.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity
Yeah.
and celebrating the beauty of individual differences.
Uh-huh.
And, I have a feeling that this conversation is just scratching the surface
Right.
of what Brooks explores in his book.
Yeah.
There's so much more to unpack here.
There is.
So much wisdom to glean from his insights.
Absolutely.
So much more to explore. But we're going to have to stop there
Okay.
for part one of this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back, we'll delve even deeper into some of the specific strategies
Sounds good.
and insights Brooks offers for truly getting to know the people around us.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Great. One of the things that struck me as I was thinking about all this is that we often talk about the importance of emotional intelligence.
Right.
But what does that really mean, like, in the context of getting to know someone?
That's a great question. It's one of those buzzwords
Yeah.
that gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
But I'm not always sure people really understand what it means.
Yeah. Brooks actually talks quite a bit about emotional intelligence in his book.
Okay.
And he defines it as the ability to not only recognize and understand our own emotions, but also to be attuned to the emotions of others.
Okay.
It's about being able to read those subtle cues, like
Right.
the tone of voice, the facial expressions, the body language,
Yeah.
that often reveal more than words ever could.
So it's like being an emotional detective,
Yeah.
trying to piece together the clues
Exactly.
to understand what someone is really feeling.
And Brooks argues that emotional intelligence is crucial for building strong, meaningful relationships.
All right.
When you're able to empathize with someone, to understand their perspective
Mm-hmm.
and their emotional state,
Yeah.
it creates a deeper level of connection and trust.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
If someone feels like you get them,
Right.
like you understand where they're coming from emotionally,
Yeah.
they're going to be much more likely to open up to you.
Right. And this ties back to the idea of vulnerability.
Okay.
When you're emotionally intelligent, you're able to create a safe space for others to be vulnerable
Uh-huh.
because they sense that you're not going to judge them or dismiss their feelings.
Like you're saying, hey, it's okay to be human here
Exactly.
with all the messy emotions that come with it.
And that kind of acceptance can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But, developing emotional intelligence isn't always easy.
Right.
It takes practice and a willingness to be self-aware.
Yeah.
It's about paying attention to our own emotions
Uh-huh.
and how they influence our interactions with others.
It's like building that muscle of empathy,
Yeah.
the ability to step outside of ourselves and see the world from someone else's point of view.
And Brooks suggests that one of the best ways to strengthen that empathy muscle
Okay.
is to be curious about other people's stories, to ask questions that go beyond the surface,
Right.
and really try to understand what makes them tick.
So instead of asking, how was your day?
Yeah.
Maybe ask something like, what was the most interesting thing that happened to you today?
Exactly. Those kinds of questions invite the other person to share more of themselves
Right.
and help you to see the world through their eyes.
This makes me think about how we often make assumptions about people
Oh, yeah.
based on very limited information.
For sure.
We see a snippet of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
maybe on social media or in passing at work,
Right.
and we fill in the rest with our own narratives.
Oh, absolutely. And those narratives can be so misleading.
Yeah.
We might see someone who seems confident and successful on the outside, but underneath they're struggling with insecurity or self-doubt.
Right.
Or we might see someone who appears quiet and reserved, but they're actually bursting with creativity and passion.
That's so true. It reminds me of that saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to look beyond those initial impressions and really delve into the chapters of someone's life
Right.
to understand who they truly are.
And I think that's where the art of conversation comes in.
Okay.
Those meaningful conversations that we talked about earlier can be a powerful tool for uncovering those hidden chapters.
Right.
When we ask thoughtful questions, listen attentively,
Yeah.
and respond with empathy,
Yeah.
we create an environment where people feel safe to share their authentic selves.
It's funny because sometimes I think I get so caught up in my own head,
Yeah.
my own worries and to-do lists, that I forget to really tune into the people around me.
I think we all do that from time to time.
Yeah.
It's the nature of our busy, distracted world.
Right?
But the key is to be mindful of those moments and make a conscious effort to shift our focus to the person in front of us.
Yeah.
To truly be present in that interaction.
It's like hitting the pause button on our own mental chatter
Exactly.
and giving someone our undivided attention.
And that kind of presence can be a gift in itself.
Yeah.
Think about how you feel when someone truly listens to you without interruption or distraction.
Right.
It makes you feel seen and valued.
It does. It's
Yeah.
like they're saying you're important to me
Yeah.
and what you have to say matters.
And that sense of validation can be incredibly powerful. It can strengthen relationships, build trust,
Right.
and even help people to heal emotional wounds.
So if we want to really get to know someone,
Yeah.
we have to be willing to put aside our own agendas and really listen with our hearts as well as our ears.
Right. And it's not just about listening.
Okay.
It's about responding in a way that shows you understand.
So reflecting back what you've heard, asking clarifying questions,
Right.
and maybe even sharing a bit of yourself in return to show that you're relating to their experience.
Exactly. And sometimes it's the smallest gestures that can make the biggest difference, like remembering someone's birthday or asking about a project they were working on.
Yeah.
Those little things show that you're paying attention and that you care.
It's like saying, I see you
Yeah.
and I remember the things that are important to you.
Right. And those little acts of thoughtfulness can go a long way in building stronger connections. As we're talking about all this, I'm realizing that getting to know someone is really about so much more than just gathering information.
Right.
It's about cultivating a certain way of being,
Oh.
a way of relating to the world and to the people in it.
That's a great point. It's about embracing curiosity, empathy,
Yeah.
and a willingness to see the world through different lenses.
And I think it's a journey worth taking because the more we understand each other, the more compassionate and connected our world becomes.
I love that. So if we want to become better at knowing people, where do we start?
Yeah.
What are some tangible things we can do to put these ideas into practice?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to be intentional about our interactions.
Okay.
To really make an effort to connect with the people around us, even in small ways.
So instead of just going through the motions, maybe take a moment to really look at the person you're talking to. Make eye contact.
Right.
And really listen to what they had to say.
Exactly. And maybe try asking a question that goes beyond the usual small talk.
Okay.
Something that shows you're genuinely interested in learning more about them.
Like, what are you most passionate about these days?
Yeah.
Or what's one thing you're really looking forward to?
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to share a bit of yourself in return.
Right.
Reciprocity is key in building relationships.
So it's about creating a space for genuine connection.
Right.
Where both people feel comfortable being themselves.
And I think it's also important to remember that everyone has something valuable to offer.
Even the people we might not initially think we have much in common with.
That's a great reminder. We never know what hidden gems we might discover.
Yeah.
When we open ourselves up to the possibility of connecting with others.
Exactly. And those unexpected connections can sometimes be the most rewarding of all. I completely agree. So it sounds like getting to know someone is a lifelong practice, a journey of continuous discovery and growth.
Yeah.
And it's a journey that requires us to be present, curious, and open-hearted.
It is.
Beautifully said.
You know, one of the things I've been thinking about as we've been talking is how all of this applies to different types of relationships.
Right.
We've been focusing a lot on personal connections, but how does this translate to the workplace or even interactions with strangers?
That's a great question, Stephen. I think the principles we've been discussing are universal.
Okay.
Whether you're interacting with a close friend, a colleague, or someone you've just met.
The foundation of connection is the same empathy, curiosity, and a genuine desire to understand.
So even in a professional setting, taking the time to really listen to someone, to understand their perspective and to respond with empathy can make a huge difference.
It can. It can improve communication, build trust, and create a more positive and productive work environment.
It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone we encounter.
Yeah.
Regardless of their role or title.
Exactly. And I think that's particularly important in today's world.
Right.
Where we're often so focused on transactions and efficiency that we forget about the human element.
It's about remembering that behind every interaction, there's a person with their own story, their own hopes and their own struggles.
And when we take the time to acknowledge that, see the person beyond the role, we create the possibility for genuine connection.
And those connections, even if they're fleeting, can have a ripple effect, making our world a little bit brighter and a little bit kinder.
I couldn't agree more. It's like that saying, a single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions. And the roots spring up and make new trees.
That's a beautiful image. And you know what? It makes me realize that getting to know someone isn't just about personal gain.
Right.
It's about contributing to a more compassionate and connected world.
It is. And I think that's something we can all aspire to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and feeling inspired to deepen your connections with others, where can you start? What's one small step you can take today to put these ideas into practice?
I think a great place to start is by choosing one person in your life. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague, and making a conscious effort to really connect with them today.
So put away your phone. Give them your undivided attention. And ask a question that shows you're truly interested in who they are.
Exactly. And see what happens.
Right.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
You know, this whole conversation has really got me thinking about the power of human connection. It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life. And forget to nurture those relationships that matter most.
It is. But those connections are what give our lives meaning and purpose.
Right.
They're the threads that weave together the tapestry of our lives, creating a rich and vibrant fabric.
And each new connection we make adds a new thread. A new color, a new dimension to that tapestry.
I love that.
And I think it's a beautiful reminder that even the smallest interactions can have a profound impact on our lives and the lives of those around us.
Absolutely. Every connection has the potential to spark something new.
Right.
Something beautiful, something that might not have existed otherwise.
So let's make the most of those opportunities.
Yeah.
Embrace the power of connection and see what amazing things we can create together.
I love that. As we've been talking about all this, I keep thinking back to David Brooks's book, How to Know a Person. It's such a rich exploration of human connection.
Yeah, it is.
And he offers so many valuable insights.
I agree. And what's really resonating with me is this idea that getting to know someone is a skill, something we can cultivate and improve over time. It's not just about luck or chance encounters.
That's a great point, Stephen. It's like any other skill.
Right.
The more we practice, the better we become. And Brooks offers some really practical advice on how to do that, how to approach conversations in a way that fosters deeper understanding and connection.
I'm curious, What are some of the things that stood out to you from his book?
Okay.
What are some of the key takeaways that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Well, one thing Brooks emphasizes is the importance of listening with intention.
Okay.
Not just hearing the words someone is saying, but really paying attention to their tone of voice, their body language, the emotions behind their words.
It's about listening with our whole selves, not just our ears.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of asking open-ended questions, questions that invite the other person to share more of themselves and their experiences.
So instead of asking questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no,
Right.
try asking questions that begin with what or how.
Right. Questions like, what's been on your mind lately? Or how did that experience make you feel? Can really open up a conversation and lead to a deeper understanding.
And I think it's also important to be willing to share a bit of ourselves in return,
Yeah.
to let the other person know that we're not just asking questions out of curiosity, but that we're also open to showing our own vulnerabilities and experiences.
That's so important, Stephen. Reciprocity is key in building trust and connection.
Right.
When we're willing to be open and vulnerable ourselves, it creates a space for the other person to do the same.
It's like we're saying, I'm willing to meet you halfway to share my own story in the hope that you'll share yours with me.
And I think that kind of mutual vulnerability can be incredibly powerful. It can forge bonds that go beyond superficial small talk and create a sense of shared humanity.
As we're talking about this, it strikes me that getting to know someone is really an act of love.
Wow.
It's about choosing to see the best in others, to believe that they have something valuable to offer, and to invest our time and energy in understanding who they really are.
That's beautifully said, Stephen. And I think it speaks to the transformative power of connection.
Yeah.
When we choose to see the world through a lens of love and curiosity, it changes not only our relationships, but also ourselves.
We become more empathetic, more compassionate, more understanding.
Yeah.
And the world becomes a little bit brighter, a little bit kinder, a little bit more connected.
And that's a legacy worth leaving behind.
Absolutely.
Well,
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
we have.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on this topic.
Okay.
What's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners who are eager to deepen their connections with others?
My advice would be to approach every interaction with a sense of curiosity and openness. Remember that everyone has a story to tell, and that story is worth listening to.
So put down your phone, silence your inner critic, and really tune in to the person in front of you.
And ask yourself, what can I learn from this person today? You might be amazed by what you discover.
Wonderful advice.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening who are intrigued by these ideas and want to delve even deeper, I highly recommend checking out David Brooks's book, How to Know a Person.
Great book.
It's a fascinating and insightful read that will challenge you to think differently about your relationships and how you approach getting to know others.
It will.
And don't forget to subscribe to Mighty Habits for more deep dives on all sorts of fascinating topics. We're here to help you uncover those hidden gems of knowledge and connect you with ideas that will inspire you to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you on our next deep dive.